Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hope everyone is having a great middle of the week. Welcome to another edition of Titan Talk. I'm Isiah, Kilgoon with me as usual. And chat, you've been asking for a Max show, so we're bringing you a Max show. Max is with us today. We've got some exciting matchmaking and ranked stuff to talk through. Max, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been about a month, I think, since the last time I was on, and I missed you guys.
Yeah, exactly. We missed you
This
too.
is this is deep. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, cool. Excited to be on, talk about some stuff that's already happened, happening, going to happen, past, present, future, the whole shebang.
Cool, sweet. Well, before we get into your updates, Max, we did want to call out yesterday. We did push the movement code changes live for our movement improvement system. We're still keeping an eye on feedback, looking for those weird interactions. We actually pushed out a hot fix later yesterday evening with a few of those fixes. So I will bring up the laptop really quick and go through those. So mainly around Geb, we fixed an issue with his rollout ability where it was instantly knocking back people and had some weird animations with broken rocks. There was also an issue with that ability to where he would just get perma stuck in the pebbles rocks animation, kind of like where he was underground if he was hitting people at close range. So that's got fixed. We had to disable the Morrigan briefly yesterday due to an issue with her ultimate where she would just ult and then end up underground or in the sky. So that should be fixed, and she is back on.
And I will say we've gotten a couple reports about her clone not behaving the same as it did previously.
Yeah.
So like if you're backpedaling, it backpedals, and if you're stationary, it stays stationary, which we are investigating right now. So we might have a fix for that coming soon if we decide that that is something that is broken.
Cool. And then early this morning, we fixed an issue with Thanatos, where he was just a big piece of toast just running around the battleground, just kind of stuck in that ultimate form.
Just a big old toast boy.
That's been polished up. I saw a few Reddit threads on that. People are having fun with it, but should be fixed now.
Yep. And don't forget, you can be 3 different flavors of Thanatos.
That's
now.
true. You can be Shadowberry, French toast, or if you like your toast black, you can be burnt black Thanatos as well.
Cool. They want me to turn my volume up. So
Okay, cool. Kilgoon's turning his volume up really quick. For a quick second, but we're good. We're back.
Slightly louder. Is this good?
Sorry about that, chat. But that is pretty much it. Again, we're monitoring things with the movement system updates. I know we had a couple of reports about people still experiencing some of those stutters that they may have not experienced those before. So if you've got any feedback on that, please, fill out that bug report form, leave feedback in the official Discord. If you can give us specifics around, what characters you were playing or what characters you were interacting with when you're feeling those weird hitches and stuff like that, that'll help out the team tremendously.
Yeah, there's a lot of little edge cases to track down. I think also just be great to get feedback, just like the general movement, like how is it feeling? Are you noticing differences? Is it better? Is it worse for you? And then like any particulars around your situation. Yeah. So we think it's a step in the right direction for the game, but we're keeping a close eye on things.
Sweet. And before we get into Max's updates, I do want to call out that we have been paying attention really closely to feedback after our first flash test. We're going to do our full patch notes not reveal show, but review show on Friday. I know the design team has been cooking up some additional changes, even past the ones that we talked about on our Monday show. So be sure to tune in on our Friday show for full patch notes for OB8, and we'll be talking a little bit more about some of the god balance, some additional item balance, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know that the team is currently looking more at just how mages and tanks specifically are feeling in PTS. I don't know what the specific changes are going to be. I know they're testing a few different things, but I expect there'll be some additional movement around that with this final round of patch notes.
Cool. Sweet. Well, Max, let's talk about what you brought to the show. I know you gave me a handy dandy slide deck, but do you want to give us kind of a preface, kind of preamble about what you've been cooking in the background? I know you've been working on a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff has gone live since the last time you were on the show. So if you want to just kick us off.
Yeah, so last time I was on the show, I think we were like just about to hit OB5, OB4, or OB5, one of those two. And we broke down kind of what we'd done up until that point and what was coming up. Honestly, I think you should just jump into the deck because this is what I lead off with.
Sorry for the flashbang chat. Max decided to use a white background.
I'm so sorry. That's crazy. You see, the last time on Max on Titan Talk, I needed to last time on Survivor introduce myself. All right, so we went through kind of our current priorities and then what the future plans for those were. The logical team and matchup balance we shipped, I think a week or two after we talked about it, which was great. We moved really fast on that, so now we have this team balancer live. Um, People are saying that I'm much louder than everyone else. I'm moving my mic
Cool.
slightly farther away from my mouth. Um, we have the team balancer that's live. So right now, when we make a match, previously we didn't do anything after the match was made to make sure that that match was kind of optimized. We now have this system in place that looks at the match once it's made and see if we can make any 1-for-1 or 2-for-2 player swaps to balance that match out better. The split top SR competitive lobbies. Well, we're gonna get into that right after this slide.
Yep.
And then new player first 10 to 20 games played. Not just me, but a whole bunch of people have been working on the new player matchmaking experience, from kind of the progression of levels of different versus AI matches, to just different ways that we sort players out in their first games played. And then new competitive formats as well, which we will also get into later. So out of the priorities, we kind of really hit on 2 of them. I think that new player one is probably just a forever point for every game ever made. But we definitely made pretty good. We finished that first point. We made really good progress on the third, and then we'll get into the second and fourth right now.
Sweet. I'm going to the next slide. Boom.
Yeah. So
open beta
right
8.
now we're going open beta 8, OB8, and the main focus for this patch, getting in for this patch, was a top SR kind of ranked matchmaking change. And with our new system and the new system that we've been using, the more that we've optimized it out, the more that we've found kind of what we consider definitively better results than, the old time system for the base player base. It really is a lot faster, and the matches we're pretty happy with how similar they are given, the player counts. But for the top level of player, the system just wasn't creating the ranked environment that Smite was like established on. Smite as a game has thrived with this kind of almost unique ranked system where, because in comparison to like the super massive games, the top end ranked community is relatively small. It's tight knit. They know each other. They enjoy playing against other top end players, and that's why that top down system really worked. And people understand how it worked, and for all that stream sniping and like sniping matches is considered generally
queue, man.
it's considered a bad thing in like every game but Smite.
Yeah.
You want to be sniping those queues. You want to snipe the Nika queue. And the more that even if we optimized everything else about kind of the other system, we weren't going to satisfy that requirement to the needs of those top end players. So what we ended up doing around the time, like kind of just after the last show, or actually just before we got the ball rolling on this, because we talked about it on that show, kind of made the decision that we needed to have some amount of top-down matchmaking.
Yeah.
We needed to have an ability to take players, sort them, and put the top 10 players into a match, even if it doesn't mean sorting the entire player base and then doing like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. So what we've done with this one, and you can go to the next slide, is we've kind of created this top-down pseudo timed queue, and it's just for our top-end ranked players. It's for the higher-end ranked players. They will all be eligible for this style of matchmaking, and I'll go over how it works. So if a player, if a solo or a duo queue is above Obsidian, so that means that both players in the queue, if it's a duo or above Obsidian, they're eligible for this matchmaking. It's the kind of high skill matchmaking. We're switching over to the system.
And it's in the same queue as normal ranked. It's not.
It's in the same queue as normal ranked. It is just a different way that we're making matches. It's not going to visually change anything. But to explain how it works, if the entire party of a solo and duo are Obsidian plus, then they get entered into both the kind of normal matchmaker and the high-end matchmaker. And however, they will not be made by the normal matchmaker until they've kind of exhausted the opportunity to get made by the high-end matchmaker. So that's the first change, is instead of it just being like, does the normal matchmaker find you a game that it thinks is okay? You are basically put on ice until the top-down matchmaker thinks it can't make you a match. Next, and these are kind of example settings, so don't think that this is like set in stone, but this is how it works. The system will wait until there is a certain number of players eligible. So in the example I give here, 30 players eligible, and then 20, and then 10 players eligible. And it kind of changes, so it'll be 30 players eligible, but if it goes past, it goes to like 6 minutes, then it'll drop down to 20 players. And if it goes to 8, it'll just drop down to find 10. And if we get to those 30 players, the system will immediately chop up those 30 players into the top 10, next 10, next 10, and then fire off the match. The way that this works is it basically does what the old time queues did by waiting for an accumulation of tickets or players waiting for a match and then making a match with them. This runs alongside the other matchmaker. If you get to like the 8-minute mark and you're waiting and you're a player who is Obsidian Plus, it means that there is not 10 other players eligible for you to be matched with who are also Obsidian Plus.
Cool.
So part of the system is making it so that it's very clear why you're getting matched into maybe a match with like a wide range of players. And it's because you're playing at a time that's maybe a low player count. Maybe you're playing in a region that doesn't have many players online at the moment. And you just do not have a match that's available for you that's all high-end players. If you are the top player, you are the top player in the queue, and it fires and there's 30 players who are eligible for this, you should be played with, aside from parties, and parties do kind of come into the equation a little bit, but we can kind of ignore them. You'll be getting the top 10 players into your match, and then our match balancer will be balancing the match out the best it can. So that's the new system. The exact thresholds to be eligible for this may change. We may lower this down to diamond so that more players are eligible, so we have more players to be used in this system. However, if you're eligible for the system, you are, as I said at the start, put on ice until we reach these thresholds. So it's a bit of a give and take of where do we draw the line for who is high skill.
Because it can result in longer queues.
It almost certainly will result in slightly longer queues for players who are eligible for this. However, it should result in matches after those queue times that are more understandable, that are more to expectation, and kind of hit that like competitive level and snipeable level that players expect.
Yeah, and I think the feedback that we get from different groups of players is very different, right? If you are a new player, you want a game as quickly as you can possibly get a game, right? If you are a high-level ranked player, you are more willing to wait for a more balanced game, right? So
yes.
I think this is an interesting system because it lets us kind of address both populations, where it's like, if you are the kind of person that really is willing to wait and you're a good player, you will be able to wait for a good match. If you are the kind of player who, just needs to get into a match a little more quickly, you're still getting into a match a little more quickly. And it's going to be a good match. Like the changes that we have made matches better and better, but it's not going to be, the single best match that you possibly could have gotten.
Exactly. And this is all about like player population curves, right? Like when you're at this high level, you're representing 20% or less of the players that are online, which is why matches take so much longer and are so much more spread out for the high end of ranked players. The bulk of players, if you're sitting somewhere between like silver, platinum, low diamond, there are so many people online that we can make reasonable matches with you for that a system like this would just slow down your experience. So really looking forward to seeing how this goes.
So
In
Max,
fact,
why don't you tell us how it went?
yeah, because I was gonna say, in fact, we did push this live for testing about 2 days ago, and the the gist of what we are before we go to the next slide, where we kind of look at some of the results of it. What I want kind of to say is that nowadays, when we come up with a new feature like this, we can test that it works on our end, but to test the impact, to test like how it actually plays out, is a whole other thing that we almost certainly need to do live. So, and this isn't like a system. Previously, sometimes we'll put new systems into like arena, so we can get a lot of matches really fast because arena matches are short and the feedback comes very quickly. This is only for top end ranked. So the feedback will come slowly because there's less of those games being played every day. There's already kind of one small issue with it that we've identified and are working on getting our settings right to address, and I'll talk about that later. But you can go to the next slide and we can take a look at how it's working.
Cool. Going to the next slide now.
So this is a chart that shows the Smite 2, it's just for NA, ranked matchmaking kind of selection that have been happening over the last, I made this last night, 4 days-ish. And what you're looking at is like 10-minute chunks of the match with the highest SR player being made. And you can see there's like a really small red line to the left is the old system. And what you can see is a lot more disorder. I think that if you're not looking at anything else, from at the very top, like the top line is the highest ranked player in the queue when the match was made. So when you look at any individual little timepiece, what you're looking at is, was the top player in this match, was the second player, the third player, the fourth player, and so on. And you can see that before this change, the match with the highest SR player that was made didn't always include the highest SR player in the queue. And you can kind of go down and see how many of them were just the top 10 players, and then 11 and 12. And although it's not like, oh, I'm going to look at every individual match here, the thing that I want to focus on is the amount of order and disorder before and after the change. Yeah. And you can see very clearly that after the change, the top SR match always had the top player. It very frequently had the second player. And I think like the only 2 or 3 times we went below like the 14th top SR player in queue. So we've gotten a lot better at taking those top players and putting them all into a match together. And although we were doing that sometimes before, right? Like that old system still tried to do that. Because it wasn't being treated as much of a rule, there was a lot more disorder, and it didn't feel like you could rely on the system to at least get pretty close. Nowadays, after this change, to the right of the red line, you can just see that more of the players are confined to the top 10 slots.
Yeah, the TLDR on this is solid blue lines go burr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like basically, if you like top to bottom is SR rank, right? So it's like at the top, it's the best SR rank. At the bottom, it's like the number 50th SR rank, right? The gaps mean we didn't pick that player to go into the match.
Yes.
So
exactly.
if you look at like before, there were matches that was like, oh, well, this is the best match we can make, but it was pulling like the 25th best player in the queue to join the best match, which doesn't make any sense. In this current system, the worst that it's ever done is like the 15th best player. And that's only happened like twice, right? And I think that like basically we're trying to say, if you are one of the top 10 players in queue for ranked at a given time, you will end up in that top match the vast, vast majority of the times. Yeah. And it's very rare that we are going to make a match that contains players that are not part of that top 10 group. And when we do, it's usually either because of an issue that Max has recently uncovered, or maybe one of the players is partied with another player who's number 15 or something, right?
Right.
You know, and parties can definitely affect this.
You're definitely onto something. However, with this chart, just because parties would be a little misleading because we treat parties at this level as the average of the two.
Sorry about the party
They're
one.
there. They're there.
Okay.
No. But that's something else. Don't worry about it. One of the things that is happening is that we are for instance, when we drop a level, like we go from, okay, we're waiting for 30 players, now we're waiting for 20 players. We will make a top 2 match, and then a really high set of SR players, like 3 or 4 will join, and then those 3 or 4 will be made with the kind of the remainder that were left over is the current kind of issue that we're seeing. And I think that mainly just has to do with making sure that we're giving enough time for the buckets to fill up. And if players at the very bottom end who are like Obsidian are waiting long enough, we can actually just file them into the main matchmaking pool because there are enough players for like Diamond Obsidian matches. Yeah. So one of the things, although the party thing is definitely something that if you were to look at the raw numbers of players would affect this quite a bit. And if you go on like Tracker GG and look at a match, if there's like some diamond player that gets in, maybe they're queued. Actually, they can be queued with someone that high. But anyways, parties will affect this. Yeah. We're trying to make this ideally, right? Just blue lines straight across with a few smaller hiccups. So we're going to keep kind of iterating on the exact settings that we have to try to get these as solid as possible. So players have, again, an understandable experience that's like top end competitive. The results already I think are really exciting. To be honest, I turned the system on and I sat there nervously waiting for the first matches to pop, and I watched the player count like climb up, and then we got to 30 and it made a match, and I went and I checked it and waiting to see what the ranks of all the players were. So nervous, but it was like the highest ranked match that I've seen probably ever. So things are looking really interesting. If you take a look at like any of the top players matches over the last, 24, 48 hours, you'll notice this. However, there have been small little pockets where we try radically different settings just to see the effect. And so if anything looks crazy, know it's because we're running experiments and maybe we don't like the results. Yeah. But over the next few days, we're going to be testing a bunch of settings so that when we go live with OB8, we're a little bit more solid and we'll have the exact details on that, like in the patch notes when that goes live.
Yeah. And we've spent a lot of time today talking about like, this is a change that affects the top end ranked players, right? And if you're not a top end ranked player, you might be like, why are they spending so much time on this? This seems like a waste, Yeah. But it's really important that the game lives up to its promise at the highest end, and that if you have something to work for as well as players to be like, I want to be in the big boy games. I know that if I get to that level, I will be in the big boy games, Yeah. And like, in pretty much any game, you spend a lot of your time working on things for like the top few percentage of players because they play the game so much, and making sure that they're having a good experience is important and it's worth the time, right? But this is like just the next step of things that we are working on. We also have a lot of things that we're still working on for regular matchmaking, especially for new player matchmaking, and we'll have more updates on that stuff soon for sure.
Yeah. I think another exciting part about this system in particular is that it does a few things. It keeps high-end players, like really high-end players, hopefully more out of diamond platinum games, right? Like those, like it does keep these super percentile players out of these lower ranked matches. When that does happen, right? It's rare, but when it hits, like it feels terrible.
Yeah.
So it does a better job of siphoning that off.
There is a guy at High Res who's like, it's like if I went to the Y and LeBron James was there for my pickup basketball game.
Oh yeah.
And at first I'm like, holy shit, it's LeBron James. And then he kicks my shit in for 30 minutes. And I'm like, that was awful, know? It's like, it's like,
I don't know. I think I could take LeBron one-on-one.
Oh, man.
No, look, come on. You haven't seen my jump shot.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's amazing.
Yeah. Back to the NBA.
Yeah. So I
If
think
I
like,
was 6 inches taller and, an elite level athlete, maybe.
Yeah.
do you see that there's a woman who was like 5'6" who got drafted in the WNBA
Oh
draft?
no.
Yeah, like that's awesome. Like
Yeah.
I was just like I'm always impressed when like shorter people can do well because it's like such a height dominated
Oh,
sport.
for sure.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
I'm like 6'1" and people are like, "Oh, you're tall. You should play basketball." It's like I'm not tall enough to like
Right,
play
yeah.
basketball. Basketball players are like 6'6", 6'9" if they're a dude, right? It's like crazy. Anyway,
Where were you?
tangent.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no,
Okay.
basically,
Yeah.
I'm just saying like it's a better experience for everybody if LeBron James isn't just smacking down noobs every
Yeah.
game, right? It
Yeah.
can be fun if you make it into the game because you deserve to be there. But if you're not there, if you don't deserve to be there, you're going to feel really out of place.
Yeah.
I was in Smite 1, I was a really high elo arena player. So I very frequently got like pros into my arena games. And I could keep up with them in arena because I was a good arena player. But if they ever ended up in my conquest games, I got like Trix Tank in one of my conquest games once because he was playing on NA and he didn't have like NA elo at the time, and he just destroyed us.
Yeah.
And it was just like this was not fun. Like I was excited for 3 seconds to be like Trix Tank, and then it was like holy shit, this is awful, right? So I think that like it's cool to play with pros, but it's a lot more fun if you can hang, right?
Exactly.
You don't need to be
Yeah.
as good as them, but you got to be able to hang, right? So.
Yeah. The other nice thing about having this system available is that, and we'll get to it kind of right at the end, but it does allow for a new style of matchmaking. Like we have this tool in our tool belt,
Yep.
and maybe it is best to use this for other game modes. The one that will easily come to mind is something like Duel, right? A game mode that is inherently lower population, maybe normal matchmaking rules perform not necessarily worse, but provide undesirable results compared to kind of a stack order. Let's fire this off. So it's a tool we have now, and that's super exciting. It's a tool that we can improve upon, and yeah, we are planning on using it for other things already, and I'll get to that on the last slide.
Okay,
Cool.
so we should go back to the slides and
All right,
continue
cool.
on.
I'm bringing up the next slide and going back to the laptop. Let's talk about Open Beta 9.
Yeah, so that's Open Beta 9 is when we're going to do the next ranked split. I've been having a lot of people ask me about when we're going to do a split, when we're going to do a soft reset, a hard reset, what it's going to look like. I think this is maybe like a patch later than we expected, just due to overall scheduling delays. We're all on the same page. But the kind of spring split, going into the second out of 4 yearly splits, one of the things holding us back is the reward granting and reward development, had to be reshuffled around. And it's looking like we are going to be getting ranked rewards for the first split by not a promise, but kind of aiming for hopefully Open Beta 10. So Open Beta 10 or Open Beta 11 is when we're going to be having rewards to give out, and it'll be based on your performance up until the spring split. So in the winter split, the first 8 patches of the year felt like a really clean number.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to keep holding off on doing a reset, doing a ranked split, just because the rewards weren't necessarily going to be all the way there yet. But we did want to do a few things before we could do the split that we just cannot get done until at least Open Beta 9. So I'll talk about the split for a second. We're going to be going to the second split. The rewards going to be granted after. It's going to be a quote-unquote soft reset. I talked about this at the start of Open Beta. We are looking for soft resets and splits to be more of a game-wide event instead of just something that kind of passes over for top-end players. Now, this doesn't mean that we're going to be resetting, a silver or gold player way the hell back down to whatever, pardon my French. But we are looking to take top-end players and kind of reset them quite far down again, so that there is a renewed competition at the top, especially given our new top-down matchmaking system.
Mm-hmm.
So we want players who are really high SR players to have earned it under the new system instead of the old system. That's kind of point one. Point two, for players who are not of that like top end, we want to. I'm talking very small adjustments here, somewhere in the range of like 2 to 400 SR back to certain like thresholds that they've hit, and then increase players' variance. This is mainly to just shake up the overall ladder. And if you are a player who feels that you're currently underrated by the system, you've been playing a lot, you feel kind of stuck, this is a kind of fresh start, but not from, right where you're sitting. Maybe if, like, let's say you're silver 2, silver 3, or I mean, silver 2 or silver 1, you're starting from like silver 3 here, but your variance is higher again, so maybe you're moving faster. So that's what the reset's going to look like. We're doing game wide, top end is going way down. Everyone else, small adjustments to like checkpoints, let's call it, and then the variance is going up for players, so movement's happening again. But when we did the split, we wanted to make sure that we could do a pass on to SR. Make sure that I think that now that we have a few months of open beta data of SR being used,
The beta data.
The beta data, we have a lot of things that we've learned. There's things that we really like about this system. It's a new system compared to Smite 1. There are things that I think have been really great points of feedback from pros all the way down to new players. Generally, a lot of the feedback I think comes from top end. I think that the system does a good job of serving newer players. It's shown in the way that ranked conquest was like a 5% playtime mode in Smite 1, maybe up to like 10%, and right now it's hovering between 15 and 20% in Smite 2. So we've achieved the goal of getting more people into ranked, right? Like more people are playing ranked than ever. Is that there's a mix of reasons behind that, but it is doing that job. But we want the SR to do a better job of reflecting skill when players at top end. And there's a few adjustments we can make to do that. We have ideas. Those changes haven't been made yet. They're going to be in progress, starting end of this week into the next week, so we can get ready for Open Beta 9. But we're going to be doing a soft reset, and we're going to be, updating the SR algorithm to make sure that we are, incorporating feedback that we've been given over the last little bit. One of the big ones is that like the start is just way too fast, and people get way too high, way too quickly, and then you have people at like Diamond that kind of just high rolled into it, and why are they in my match and stuff like that. So taking a look at that whole system, looking forward to making those changes and getting results out of it.
Sweet. Exciting stuff. Yeah, next slide.
So this is the Open Beta 10, Open Beta 11 Plus, what we're doing in the future. The really exciting thing that's coming up, in my opinion, and I think that internally everyone who's kind of had eyes on this is pretty stoked about it, is aiming for Open Beta 10 at the same time that we give out our ranked rewards. We're going to be launching our first kind of new competitive format. And instead of just like last time we talked about it, but I wanted to give a bit more specifics on what we're aiming to do. And the first one is a kind of new competitive format that is solo queue only. You are given divisions based on your current rank, and it's kind of a weekly cup format. So a system where you are in solo queue, you compete within your division, you get ranked within your division, and then when it comes around next week, it resets and you start all over. Yeah. There's a lot of considerations that have to go into a solo queue mode that's competitive, right? Like we have to consider making sure that feels fun instead of frustrating, and we're trying our best to nail down the specifics on that. However, just getting something available to players that want to play a bit more competitively, want to be in a solo queue, want to try to hop on comms with their teammates, and aren't doing other forms of competitive Smite, we wanted to give them an outlet. So really excited to get this kind of into the game. Things are already churning on this. Things like this are in development. And to do this, we felt like we needed that kind of top-down ranking system available to us to use for this format. We felt like we needed live leaderboards for this format, which were completed between the last time I was on and now. So we've been slowly assembling the pieces to make these new competitive formats interesting, possible. So yeah, we'll talk more details kind of when we get closer and everything's nailed down. But really, really excited about this. And then to clarify, just because I see one thing in chat about splitting the player base, we're talking about a kind of limited time weekly cup where you are playing and then it's gone, and then you can play again next week.
Yeah,
Um,
like one night a week or 2 nights a week, having a special queue
yeah,
available for this kind of competition. We don't have the exact format
exactly,
yet. We're still working on it, but just to kind of give you an
yeah,
idea of what we're talking about.
exactly. And so in general, sure, we'll split the player base at this time, but there's people who have even when heard this have been like, just turn off the ranked mode while this is live. Like, just force everyone to it. Not saying we're gonna do that, but I think the goal is, if you want to be playing competitive Smite, here's your time window to play. We'll go again next week. So we don't mind splitting the player base for that period of time. And then open beta 11 plus. So this is not like guaranteed for open beta 11. I just mean then onwards. Um, we're looking towards making similar type formats for non-conquest modes, and namely Joust and Duel. So people talk about when ranked Joust, when ranked Duel. I think that we are in a spot where it would probably be a mistake. Conquest is by far the most popular mode right now, and then Joust. But even with that, Joust, splitting that player base into a ranked and normal queue, um, I don't think that it would provide good. The matchmaking results would be pretty hard pill to swallow, in my opinion. However, I think that giving those players a competitive outlet is really important, and I think that the format of Joust and Duel allow us to do really fun things with competitive formats. And I think that there's a lot of potential there to do things that have been a little bit unlike anything else we've done in Smite before. Not to be too optimistic about it, but I think that both those formats are just so interesting. Like, we've had Duel as a game mode, and it's always just been like this ranked system, but having things that are more akin to like a weekly cup for Duel feels like it fits the mode better than ranked ever did.
Yeah.
So really excited to, once we finish up for Conquest, focus on these non-conquest modes and giving them a competitive format as well.
Sweet. Yeah, I think it's exciting stuff. I think that I have been excited about this idea as Max has been talking about it internally. I think it's great to just, I don't know, one of the things I used to be a really hardcore Magic player before I had kids. And I always look forward to, like, it's Friday Night Magic. You got to go down and play the competitive thing, the somewhat competitive, depending on where you play, thing with all the best people in town, right?
Right, yeah.
And I like having the, hey, let's do this special, more competitive version of what we're doing kind of thing that pops up.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of exciting things that are in our future here, and I'm pleased with what you're working on. Obviously, we talked a lot about like the high-end ranked stuff. You are also working on like new player matchmaking stuff, which we don't have too much of anything to share on that today. But I think that, like, as we saw that high-end players were getting bad matchmaking before and weren't getting the best matches, new players are similarly seeing some problems because they're being treated, I don't want to say as like an average player, but they're not being guaranteed matches that are good for them, I guess I would say. And it's harder for new players than for high level ranked players because new players will not wait 8 minutes for a good game, right? So there's been talk about like how we make that a similar thing work where new players are getting better games more often, but it's a different solution. So Max is also at work on that. And then there was somebody's been asking in chat. I'm just going to address it real quick. That we do we not have matchmaking for normal modes? And we do have matchmaking for every mode. For every mode, you have kind of a hidden matchmaking rating, which is used to find opponents that are of a similar skill level. And it generally, that's how it works. I believe there's also an extra thing on top for Casual Conquest that tries to keep people below a certain level threshold together. You're nodding. Okay.
No, it does.
Yeah, but it's mostly based on what your hidden matchmaking rating is, and we try and give you matches against people of a similar skill range.
Yeah, I think I hate to call this out, but I do, as part of my morning routine when I'm not talking to you guys, when I'm having my coffee, I do a bit of a roundup of what's going on social media, see what people are talking about. And I think that the funny thing about matchmaking is that often you kind of have to evaluate it by a lack of noise, right? Like if we do something that kills queue times, I'll hear about it right away.
Right.
If we do something that makes unbalanced matches, I'll hear about it right away. If we do something that makes matches great, you'll hear nothing.
Yeah.
And
if people are satisfied, they're not, when something's wrong, you speak up about it. But if everything's good, I'm just gonna hit the cues,
Yep.
Yeah. So we've definitely heard less noise recently, which is great. One of the things that happens though is that we'll get someone who is having certain casual matchmaking complaints, and I'll go take a look at it, and it's not worth a call out or responding necessarily often, but I think that if you have matchmaking questions, one of the things that you really do have to keep in mind is when you're playing and where. And I had someone the other day who was upset about a matchmaking situation they got themselves into. That we made for them. And I'm like, they didn't choose it, we did. But it was literally like the last match of the night made in one of our like low population regions. It was made at like 1 a.m. It was the last match made until like 4 a.m. in Conquest. They were the only players basically available. And it sucks to say, right? Like I wish we had an infinite player base for you so we could always be like pumping out these amazing matches. But we consider peak hours in our two biggest regions, NA and EU, to be between about noon or 2 p.m. and like 2 a.m. That's when we have a player base that I think is like constantly sufficient to be making pretty decent matches, and we should be making good matches there. And when we're not, I try to take a look at that. However, in off regions, it's more centered around like the 6 to 9 p.m. time slot. And so if you're in an off region or you're playing at like 7 a.m. In a casual queue, there's often just very little to do about it, which sucks to say. But it's why we want to take a look at all the kind of alternate options that are available to us. So casual matchmaking, it does exist, but I just have to give the disclaimer about being aware, and maybe we can be giving better feedback, right? Like maybe we can be giving better like UI feedback eventually to let you know, hey, this is the current situation for your queue. Lower pop, longer wait time.
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. Song of the Sun just dropped 100 gifted subs in chat.
Oh my goodness, Song of the Sun! Shout out to you.
Yeah,
you guys need to have me on more often.
That's incredible. We appreciate the.
We greatly
support.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for gifting some subs to people and hanging out and watching the show. We do really appreciate it.
The goat. That's cool.
If I see you in real life, Song of the Sun, I'm buying you an Alani.
Yeah. How many Alanis stuff? I don't even know how many Alanis are. They're just in the fridge here. I buy them at Walmart and stuff, but I don't actually remember how much they're. Yeah, dude, that's incredible. Thank you so much. Chat just wants to talk about this now. Fair enough. That's awesome.
Well, I guess we can go to. That's a good segue to transition. We got about 15 minutes left in the show. We've got Max on, so chat if you have any questions about matchmaking stuff, any of the future plans that Max is working on, timelines, any of that stuff. We're here for a little bit to hang out and answer questions.
Oh yeah, someone's been asking, do we know what the rank rewards will be? Sorry, I just want to not forget to get to it. We announced it in Open Beta 1 patch notes. But we have a series of titles that we wanted to give out earlier. Couldn't get that set up, so we'll be giving them out with everything else. So there's first titles that will be given out. I'd have to go back to the patch notes to be sure, but I know there is a title you get for hitting Demigod at least once. There'll be a title given out to D&D players, and then also the ranked speedrunner players, the players who hit demigod first. And then the main reward is going to be border. We're doing ranked borders for Smite 2, which is kind of like the Smite special for ranked rewards.
Yeah.
You know, we've been doing that forever. And I also think it's kind of the coolest way to do ranked rewards. I think that like a skin, it's for one god, whereas your border, that's always available. You want to be flashing that before a game, right? That's what it's all about. So we'll be handing that out, and then if your rank improves over the course of the year, you'll get the more improved version.
What if I just want the clay one? I just
So
Just
you
don't
know what?
claim.
I don't. You're preaching to the choir, because if I could tank my rank right now just to get the clay one, I
Right,
would.
yeah. Kilgoon, just like me, for real.
I don't know if we're even making a clay one. I think we're gonna have a minimum rank threshold you gotta hit.
Wow.
I think it's gonna be lower than
Okay.
Smite 1, but in Smite 1 you had to hit plat to get a border. It's gonna be lower than plat, but um I think I think it's gonna be silver. Don't full quote me on that. We'll have it in the next notes.
Okay.
But I think so if you're silver or up, you'll get a border. Beneath that, no reward. And it's your peak, right? So if you hit silver and then drop back down, what you're getting the border.
Very cool. Awesome. Let's see. The questions that are specifically about like the weekly cups, we don't really have too much more to share beyond what we've said already. We're still planning out the details, so probably not going to be able to give you too many more details there. But hopefully you're excited about the idea of it at least. So we'll talk more about it soon.
Yeah.
I am seeing the vibration chatter in chat. We are still investigating that. We have not found a consistent reason why some people are getting vibration and some people are not. But I will let you know as soon as I have more of an update there. So yeah, apologies for that, but we are looking into that.
There's a lot of questions coming in, so I'm trying to note them down. But one of the ones here: are you more likely to get matched with cross-play players when in a group with one? No. As of right now, we are full cross-play. So we that is not a population split that we want to use right now. There is a bit of talk about whether we treat new players on console and PC a little differently. You know, something that we found out a long time ago is that console and PC new players respond differently to like different characters, right? Like, so right now, no, you're gonna get matched with everyone, and it's not gonna change it up. However, there's small considerations that are being taken for crossplay, but it's not really a population split right now.
I'm just making a note over here, so I'm not reading chat right now.
I got more that I can keep going with.
Yeah, go for it. Take another one.
Okay. Someone did say, will weekly cups have rewards? Specifics? Unsure. Rewards? Yeah, like we'll make that will be a rewarded thing. The specifics haven't decided. Can't get into haven't decided yet. Is there anything notably interesting about matchmaking in Assault? I imagine it's hard to quantify skill there. Yes and no. It's kind of one of those things that like falls into like a sample size thing. A player with a few games, yeah, maybe they got a random god and they're bad. But if you're at like 100 Assault games, we're gonna assume that the sample size of you on random gods, like the skill being tested in Assault is player on random god plus reroll, right? So I don't think it's all that much different than other modes. However, it's definitely a mode that we've seen. It's kind of risen in popularity, but it's still one of our lesser popular modes. It's definitely been like the biggest gainer in Smite as a franchise over the last few years, for sure. But it's still comparatively a lower population mode, so there is a bit of a challenge there just because of that. And then someone else asked, any updates on role-based SR? Role-based SR is something that requires a player to be able to have kind of a series of skill levels, like a list, a grouping of them. And it's something that's on the tech radar to get implemented. Once that is finished, those sort of processes will get further built out. However, the truth of it is that it's constantly a juggling of priority. And although role-based SR is something that, well, SR is maybe the wrong word for it, but role-based kind of considerations for matchmaking is something that we think will have really positive benefits. It's not something that we're like rushing to get into the next patch because we have other things that we think will make the game more fun first. But that is like a long-term project that we're still working on. Yeah.
There's a question about there's a bug on console where when you ban a god, it doesn't let you scroll to anybody else. We are aware of that bug, and I believe it should be fixed for OB8. I believe there was a fix that went in. It popped up when we were fixing another bug that would allow you to lose your cursor completely. So in preventing you from navigating to non-navigable squares, we put you into a potentially bad situation for ranked in particular. Try switching to a different tab if that happens, and you might be able to kind of get around it. I know it's not perfect for right now, but we are aware and we're working on fixing it.
Someone asked, God leaderboards when? Unsure, but I can say that because of those like alternate formats, we are working on kind of a second leaderboard. Once we have two, we'll get a really good handle on whether we can just kind of copy and paste that work and keep making things, and then things like God leaderboards could become possible. So, not in the pipeline, but the things that would make it in the pipeline are actively being worked on. Yeah, exactly. But like soon. So I think that once within a few patches, we'll get an idea on how much work that would take, and once we have an idea for that, we can explore all the leaderboards we want.
Bonus worshippers question. When's our next?
I'm pretty sure it's starting on Friday.
Okay.
I will go back and double check, but I know we haven't had one in a while, so I made sure we got one on the calendar.
Any bugs on the movement system? I've heard instances of stuttering when I normally don't have any. We would appreciate any details around those that you have. Mostly we've been getting positive feedback around the changes, but there probably are a few little edge cases that we still need to work out. So any more details you have that you can share, we would appreciate.
I was wondering if we're going to get a God ability builder like in Smite 1. That should be in open beta 8. We've got God builder. You can make your own custom item builds and set your ability order pre-match.
Very rudely, they started the match while I was making my Kali build today, and I had to just...
They knew it was going to be too good. They couldn't let you finish.
It was a much better build than my Kali build yesterday, let me tell you. But no, it's a good system. I think the other real benefit of the system, which I mentioned before, is that it has community builds, so you can see builds that other people have posted and work off of one of those if you don't want to put in your own. Because I think very few people actually take the time to put in their own builds, whereas if you just have that available for other people to access it, it should help everybody a lot more.
I've got a lot of questions that I've picked up while scrolling down that I'm just gonna fire off.
Yeah.
Is there a way to include? Oh,
no, go for it.
Did you say go?
I was gonna do something else, but yeah, go for it.
Okay. Is there a way to include active player population anywhere? Would love it. It's a UI thing that we would have to look into, but it's something that we have noted down as cool to have eventually. Any plans to improve the ban phase? We talked about this before, but when we move to the next kind of stage of 3 bans per team, we'll probably try to just explore a different format for it, because back and forth 3 times takes a lot of time, and there's different ways that we could do bans. Someone's talking about being lower ranked than the other team, but the team SR is technically higher because of the averaging, and whether they should be losing kind of full SR just because of team averages. I think it's quite a good point, and it's what we are trying to explore with the SR update going into OB9. Not going to say that first pass we will just eliminate that from happening, but that's one of the things that we've seen and noted. So it's definitely on the radar and understood that is something we want to address. And then how will teams work in the competitive format? Do you stay on the same team each time or randomly selected each time? We'll get into more specifics kind of later on. However, for the solo queue mode, it's definitely going to be focusing on kind of a solo queued experience. However, something like, you know, getting paired up with a team and sticking with a team is something really interesting, but takes more tech, right? We're working through the different levels of tech, you know, needed to get something done.
Non-Smite question for the group: does John Cena beat Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania? You're not a wrestling fan, I can tell by your face.
He's like, who are those people?
Me? I know one of them. I know
Yeah.
I know John Cena.
You don't know Cody Rhodes? Come on.
Guys,
he's
I'm
been the champ
so
for like
sorry.
a year, dude.
Yeah, a year that I haven't watched any wrestling.
His dad is Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, son
Right.
plumber.
Okay.
You know, his brother is Dustin Rhodes, known as Stardust for a long time, or not Goldust. He was Cody Rhodes was Stardust.
I was gonna say we
Oh,
lose. Max.
I'm blurry, guys.
Oh,
This
there
is
you go.
I've got so okay. I'm back.
TLDR, I would expect if this truly is Cena's retirement tour, for him to lose, because normally people go out on a loss in the way of the wrestling business, and it continues to put Cody over as the top face of the company. So,
all right, cool. Well, we are at 159, so it's time for
one more question.
Max
One more
is like,
question.
"Dang it."
No, I knew that I wasn't gonna be lined up with you guys, so I was gonna do a little
you're
like
gonna
call
wait.
and response. Like I was, I was ready for that.
Cool. All right, so everybody, let's pick out one more before we close the show.
Yeah. So if I make a build with God Builder, is there a way that I can send it to my friend who is new? So in this initial out, there is not, but your build is automatically shared with everybody in the community build section. And what we're going to add in the next update probably will be a way to search for those builds, so that you can say, like, search for, you know, John's build or whatever. And, you know, okay, cool, I found it, right? So that should be an improvement coming in the next one. I have made some builds, but they will probably not be in the live version because they're in the dev client. But it's the other thing that I didn't really go into full details on this, but like there's a lot of like text fields on these builds too, so that you can add like tips about how to play a god, or what you should be prioritizing, or how to play this certain build. Or if you're like a streamer or something, you can be like, and watch me at twitch.tv/whatever, right? Like, so we're okay with people like doing a little self-promotion in these. Like, that's part of the, I think, like social contract for you guys, like participating in making builds and stuff. So I think it's a good system all around. Don't forget to make your buy wards tab. Like, that's been my my game changer. I remember to buy wards so much more often. Yeah, that's my question.
Cool.
Go for it. I got one that's probably best for the end. So
okay, cool. So I need to choose.
You guys
one. Let's see here. Is there any update on combat blink testing, or are we as devs happy with where blink is at right now? And an Alani check. I think the design team is pretty happy with the state of blink right now. As always, they're keeping an eye on all the relics and kind of the way that things are shaking out. But for right now, I think we're kind of cool with collecting some more data.
I think that for right now, also a lot of the design, like brain power, is going into items.
Yes.
Because this item overhaul is just a very big change to the way the game works. And then also just kind of the core, like potentially systemic problems of like, you know, are God base stats performing properly, and like trying to understand the flow better between like how a match goes, right? So I think that like, though we probably aren't like on our final iteration of Blink, it's not the top problem right now, I would say, in the way that we were concerned that it might be for a brief period of time. So we're focusing on a few other things, but we probably will loop back to some more Blink changes at some point.
Yep. And then Alani check, cherry twist for both of us today on the show.
Cherry
Max
twist?
has got coffee, I believe. I saw him sipping.
It's empty, guys. It's empty.
Man.
I ran out. Yeah,
You're well
that's
caffeinated.
crazy. I'm well caffeinated. People are asking me to do another, and I'm like, you want me to start just shaking at my desk, guys? I have one a day, and that's it. I cut myself off.
I drink way more caffeine than that.
Yeah, I love caffeine, but I actually don't have a great tolerance to it. Oh man, I'm blurry again. That's fine. We'll just roll with it. Okay, my last question isn't Smite or matchmaking related. Young Sonics has asked this a few times. Since the team not as big as before, what do you do in your off time to relax and get rest? Because not everyone knows that you're all working really hard. I thought that was a sweet question.
That is a good
Yeah.
question. Thanks, Young Sonics.
We all have to answer that. Too.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'll start. I like I do a lot of rock climbing nowadays.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've been for about a year now. I've been definitely a bit more into it. I moved into a new location and I'm really close to a gym, so it's been good. It's getting nice out again, so doing some going for some bike rides, and my summer softball team is about to start up, so big things happening.
Awesome.
We have lost in the finals 2 years in a row, so we're really chasing that championship.
You got to get the dub. Yeah.
We got to get the dub. We have a lot of potential, raw talent on the team. I've been looking at like the sabermetrics of it all. I'm deep into the money ballification of my co-ed softball beer league team. Yeah.
If you are into like sabermetrics, Moneyball stuff at all, I'm going to recommend a book. It is called "The Only Rule Is It Has to Work," and these two like sabermetrics guys got to take over the operations of an independent league baseball team for a season. And they tried to implement like sabermetric stuff because they're like, oh, we'll be able to break the game because we know how to do it. And it's so interesting because like a lot of like real human issues come up. And it's like, it's like, but I'm the best player. I should be hitting fourth. And they're like, no, but it's better if you hit first. He's like, no, but I'm the best player. I should hit fourth. It's just like a lot of like, it's very good. Anyway, sorry. Tangent.
That's cool. Yeah. No, I like it.
Things I do too when I'm not at work. I have two kids. One of my kids is 3 months old. So I spend most of my time not at work with my two kids and my wife, just hanging out and taking them to the park and stuff. I'm also Isiah and I are both playing Blueprints right now. That game
Blueprints
is incredible.
Is amazing.
Yeah. If you like,
puzzle games, roguelikes,
very good. So that's when I'm not playing Smite 2. I am with my kids or playing Blueprints right now.
Yeah. For me, I play a lot of Magic the Gathering. I've got a really awesome group that we play Commander pretty much every weekend. I also like building Gunpla, model kits and stuff like that. And then I also have a really bad guilty pleasure for reality TV. So
dude,
I'll just throw on like Survivor is what I'm watching right now. It's so good. It's my favorite show.
Dude,
it's
I'm
Wednesday.
deep.
We got a new episode tonight for the new season. But that's pretty much what I do in my free time. Magic the Gathering, building Gunpla, playing Monster Hunter or Blueprints, and then just like watching bad reality TV,
Awesome. Well, that was a good question. That was fun. Good way to wrap up the show today. And we'll be back on Friday. Do we have a guest on Friday?
I believe it's going to be someone from design, either Pawn or Clumsy. Still figuring out that, but we will have the full patch notes review for Open Beta 8. I think Max is going to get in his matchmaking stuff for the patch notes, hopefully, and we'll have that over in full.
We do have one more question for you.
Ooh.
Who is your favorite Survivor cast member ever?
Ooh. I feel like it's the GOAT Boston Rob.
All right.
Like, you're going Rob. Okay,
Rob
I go Tony.
Good.
I go Tony.
Tony is good. I'm also a big Suri fan.
Okay.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That Ball. Okay.
I do know Ball, yeah.
Sweet. I don't watch Survivor, so I cannot contribute to this conversation. But I am watching Top Chef right now. So
nice.
Anyway.
Nice.
Sweet.
Cool. Okay, we can wrap up.
I know, right? We've talked. Chat, tune in. Join us on Friday for our last Titan Talk of the week. We'll have full patch notes for OB8 released on the website at that time, too. We'll go over everything and go over all the cool stuff that's coming in the update that we haven't talked about yet. So until then, we will see you all on the battleground. Hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Peace.